we're back. This is 2 weeks in a row. I'm excited. Hey, 2 weeks in a row, back again. Welcome to the Art of Advocacy. I'm your host, Dr. Sheldon L. Eakins. I'm excited to share with you some more. Listen, if you watched me last week, I said, listen, I am in the process of writing a book, my second book. It's all about the sense of belonging. As I research, as I put things together, as I'm writing, I want to share this with you so you can kind of take this journey along with me. That way, when the book comes out, when the book is fully ready, you'll have some familiarity. So I'm excited for that. Today's topic is boom. Don't bring in boxed macaroni to the potluck. And nice is not enough. If you're out there, feel free to say hello. Let me know where you are watching from. Say hello. We're going to get started in just a moment. I got to give credit to Double G. Double G was with us last week, and he pitched the topic, niceness, and when niceness is not enough. So we're going to give Double G a credit for that. Patrick, I see you in there. Oh, my man Patrick, it's good to see you. What's up? The homie's there. Glad you made it in. Thanks for joining us. Feel free, folks, say hello. Glad to see who's here. It's always fun to see you out there. Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. Let's see who else. Heather is here. Lockport, New York. Welcome. All right, we're gonna bring this volume down because I got a lot to talk about. So I've been doing some research this week because I'll share some stories. I'm a storyteller. If you follow me, you know I like to tell stories, and so I'm excited for this. But I've been doing a lot of research in regards to sense of belonging, especially niceness. So we're gonna geographically. I'm not gonna pick on our Midwest folks, but technically, I might be picking on you just a little bit. I don't want you to feel offended though. Okay. It's all love. Okay. All love. Let's see. Jenny's here. Hello, Jenny. I see Tanya's here as well. Maryland representing. Nice. All right, let's get into it because we're gonna jump into these slides. All right. So once again, topic today is don't bring in boxed macaroni to the potluck when nice is not enough. By the way, if you'll see right there at the bottom, scrolling through, follow my YouTube channel. So if you're not on my YouTube already, please jump in there after the show. Don't leave me now. After the show, and I'll also post this video up later. But it's at the Art of Advocacy. I'm going to take that down because it's going to distract me. But yeah, at the Art of Advocacy is right there for you. All right. As always, if you haven't already gotten the book, Lead in Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students, it's available. If you had the book and you enjoyed the book, hook your boy up with a review on Amazon. That would be dope. I think I got like only 11, man. I'm trying to get them up. So yeah, hook your boy up, man. Give him show some love for your boy. Okay. Also, if you got a sense of belonging topic for next week, again, I'm literally doing. You don't understand. I don't think folks understand. I literally put this together as I go. Okay, so if you got a topic for next week, I literally might pick that next week. Okay, because that's what we did. That's what today is about. All right, that was a viewer's choice, if you will. So if you got one, put that in the comments in the chat, and I might bring that up next week. Okay, so if you got something, okay. As always, this is a brave space. Brave space means I'm going to share some things that, if you know me, I like to talk. I just share what's on my mind, what I got going on in life, all those kind of things. And sometimes you might disagree with it, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to jump on anybody, but feel free to put the chat in, put your questions in, and we'll keep it moving. All right, today's agenda, safety at the minimum is where we're starting. Let me bring that up a little bit bigger so you can see that. Safety at the minimum, the art of assimilation. Hope I spelled that right. Something looks like it's off. And then don't bring in boxed macaroni to the potluck, and then we'll hang out for a little bit. If there are some Q&As at the end, if you got some questions, feel free to drop those in as well, and we'll get to them. All right. As a reminder, last week I introduced the formula. When it comes to a sense of belonging, you cannot have a sense of belonging If students do not feel these three things, they must feel accepted, they must feel included, and they must feel supported. Got to have all those things. If you do not have those things, there's no sense of belonging. I mean, that is the formula. Okay, so that is what guides us as we go each week. The formula: accepted, included, and supported. Now let's talk about safety at the minimum. This is a bare minimum. Okay, bare minimum. Safety is the foundation that nurtures our students' sense of love and belonging, paving the way for their positive self-esteem, self-actualization, and an insatiable thirst for knowledge and comprehension. The bare minimum. Okay. Now, what happens when you have safety? When a child feels safe in their environment, students are more likely to engage in learning. Students are more likely to take educational risks. Furthermore, students are more likely to engage in their own learning. How many of us have had the opportunity to work with students in which they're in their environment? They feel comfortable, they feel safe. Again, basic necessity. And you just see them light up when they're working at their own pace, when they're working on projects that are relevant to them, that they can relate to, not just what a teacher says they need to do, but these are things that they want to do. I've learned the power of learning from my students. Kids will love to teach you stuff. My son, I was just talking to my daughter this morning and my son. We're talking about anime, telling me all about this brand new anime that they're watching, enjoying it. Just the passion, how they light up when they explain, Daddy, you got to watch this new one. Okay. So as a result, these are just some simple things, but it's a bare necessity. I mean, bare minimum when it comes to sense of belonging. Okay. Now I'm saying this, but the question I'm going to ask you is, well, what does Father Abraham say? Okay. Now, when I say Father Abraham, I'm not talking about from the song, right? From the Bible. We're talking about this Father Abraham Maslow. Okay. What does Maslow say? Maslow talks about self-actualization. Okay. Our physiological needs, like the basics, right? And then you see safety is right there, and almost in the middle. Next level up. These are what we all need. We're human beings. Okay, yeah, it's important to learn about math and writing skills and reading skills, all these different things. However, at the end of the day, you got to have these basic needs. Self-actualization, because when you get to self-actualization, it's that desire to become the most that one can be. And not only that, I'll add to that, okay? And I'm going to add to what Father Abraham said. When self-actualization happens, students also have developed a level of respect for you in which they will not want to let you down. Kids will want to come through for their teacher when they respect you, when they respect themselves, when they have that self-actualization. They're not going to want to let you down. That's when you watch. I mean, I'm telling you, get to see your kids thrive in their environment where they feel safe, where they feel included, where they feel as if they belong. And as a result, the return of favor, they won't want to let you down. They're going to do their best. You're going to push them, but they're going to do their best. They're going to try hard. They're going to do all that they can to be successful. Okay? Because they have the desire to become the most that one can be. Don't matter what age they are. 4 years old, 40 years old. Don't matter. They're going to try to be the best that they can be. All right. Now, if you follow my story, you're familiar. I messed around and taught second grade one year. I had so much fun. But here's why I'm bringing this up. And especially when we're talking about how this relates to safety. Now, when I was teaching second grade, now I was trained middle and high. I did some student, when you go to your teacher prep program, you got to do some observations, at all levels just to make sure this is the level that you want to be at. But I said, listen, I want to be middle and high. I love middle school because I'm not the tallest guy. And middle schoolers, typically, most of them aren't towering over me. High school is a little different story. But patience wise and things like that, elementary, I give all love to all my elementary folks out there. But here's the thing. I identify as a black male. If you know statistics when it comes to teaching, especially in elementary, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's really low when it comes to black males. So, as a teacher, you know what happened when parents found out that second grade teacher was going to be a black male? A lot of parents had black kids, for example, and even still, right? Just general population when it came to parents. I mean, they were almost fighting to put their children in my class. And keep in mind, I hadn't had I wasn't an elementary teacher. Like I didn't have that training. I didn't have that background. But I had a lot of students, a lot of the black boys that were in my class that I still keep up to this day. I mean, I had a set of twins. I had some little boy. I taught one of my boys how to ride his bike. I mean, there's like little things that you teach science and math, reading, but then you also get that mentorship. Your students get to see someone that looks like them. They get to have those opportunities to learn from someone, and then you get that mentorship. So it goes back to that safety, right? At least for that second grade year, they can reflect on that teacher that they had that looked like them. I remember this kind of makes me think about when I was working in higher ed. I was as an adjunct teacher. And I remember teaching a doctoral course, and I had a student that was black, and she literally said, I have gone through my entire educational career. I've gone K-12, bachelor's, master's, and now I'm finally working on my EDD. This is the very first time I ever had a black professor, ever. She felt safe. She felt safe to she told me, she said, listen, I mean, like the company that I'm in, there's all these professionals. They got folks that have been in their positions for years, their leadership. You got faculty folks, you got administrators. Who am I? I remember having conversations with her. And I'm telling her, I said, listen, y'all are all at the same level. Y'all all have an opportunity to get a 4.0 or an A in your course. You all have the same opportunity to turn in your assignments and your homework. You are at the same level of everybody else. Just because they have a professional experience or career that's different than yours, or they're older than you, or they have accomplished this and that, it doesn't matter. Y'all are in the same class. But what happens sometimes when we aren't in the majority in our when we're not in the majority when it comes to our cohorts, when it comes to these different roles, then imposter syndrome starts to come in. I shouldn't be here. Who am I? Who am I to be in this space? So going back to the idea of safety, from my second grade year, from teaching second grade that year, and working with, I mean, I still keep up with those boys. They just graduated a couple years ago from high school. But those are memories that I'll never forget. Now, we're going to be talking about niceness. I'll tell you one thing I struggled with when it comes to second grade. It was that tattletale was rough. Tattletale was rough. And I remember having those conversations with kids about being nice to each other. But that's not the niceness that we're going to be talking about today. Okay? We'll get into it in just a moment. We're going to transition first to the art of assimilation. Let me bring that back up for you. The art of assimilation. And I'm going to connect safety and assimilation. So follow with me. Stay with me, okay? Here's the thing. The connection between safety and assimilation. Now, first of all, assimilation refers to the process through which individuals and groups of differing heritages acquire the basic habits, attitudes and mode of life of an embracing culture. Now, I found this. I ain't gonna lie. I quickly did a quick Google search, pulled up the dictionary version because I struggle with this embracing culture term, right? You know, whenever I find a dictionary references to certain words and certain terms, you know, I struggle sometimes with some of the definition because as I look at here it goes again, refers to the process through which individuals and groups of differing heritage, so meaning you're not part of the dominant culture, but they acquire the basic habits, attitudes, and mode of life of an embracing culture. That is not always the case when it comes to assimilation. I can give you some examples. Native American boarding schools, ring a bell? I don't think that was an embracing culture, if you will. I struggle with this definition as I'm thinking about it. Because what was the term? Kill the Indian, save the man? Patrick, you bring up a good question. I was thinking the same exact thing. There it is. Who wrote that definition? Probably wasn't people that look like me. Maybe it was the embracing culture. Maybe it was the embracing culture. But I struggle with this term because I don't think that that's accurate. I took it down for a reason. Okay? Because that's what your dictionary says. Just because it's in the dictionary, and dictionaries are credible sources. However, I struggle with this definition because when it comes to assimilation, in my mind, if I was to rewrite a definition and literally try to put something together right now, an assimilation process often, especially in a school setting, requires one, especially those who are not part of the dominant culture, to transition from what they're used to in order to fit in to a culture that may or may not be embracing. But even the word embracing is a struggle for me because I feel like that's always the challenge. Those are the comments that you hear all the time. Oh, well, why don't they come and join us? Well, they're over there in the back. Why do they always go to the back? Why do they always hang out with each other? And they never come and join us. See, we've invited them. We're embracing them into our culture. You hear how that sounds like when you say that out loud? You hear how that sounds? Heather, you bring up a good point. That is just someone trying to not tell the truth in that definition. Absolutely. Isn't that crazy how they even our definitions from credible, like from the dictionary, coded language? From the dictionary, you got coded language. Let me bring it back up for a second. Okay. Let me step down for a second. You know, I start to preach sometimes. Sometimes y'all get me going. I start preaching. All right. But let's move forward. All right. Because like I said, you're essentially trying to fit in with the assimilation. And sometimes we don't want to fit in. Right? I think the boarding schools is a prime example. Right? The students there were mistreated, horribly treated, and they were forced to get rid of their language. They couldn't speak their language. Right? That's part of assimilation process, but that's not that damn sure not going to be in the Merriam-Webster. Right? But they had to get rid of their language. They had to cut their hair. They received all kind of harsh treatments. That's not fitting in either. And the damn sure is not sense of belonging where they feel accepted, supported, and included. Yep, had to cut their hair. All right, so fitting in versus sense of belonging. What does that mean? It means students navigate school at the expense of the staff. What does the staff believe is the right way to walk down the hallways? Is the right style of dress? The right length of dress, maybe? When I say style of dress, I mean just like what you're wearing, but then it made me think about like your actual dress. How high can it be? How long can it be? Is it according to the male gaze? Is it according to who deems things professional? Your hair needs to be a certain way. I just saw, I don't remember which state it was that just passed the crown law. Just the fact that we have to have a law, the crown law, just the fact that that's the thing. 2023. What's acceptable? But again, simulation. Let's keep it real. Not everybody's hair grows the same way. Right? My hair doesn't grow straight, long, and I can do this. I can't. It's just not how my hair grows. So there's certain, I mean, even if I left my identity behind me, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that I just will never be able to do as part of what the dominant culture believes is maybe professional, acceptable, mainstream, popular, whatever terms I want to use at the end of the day. How about this? Fitting in requires us to adjust to spoken and unspoken rules, those norms. They're not always on the wall that says, okay, you must do this, you must do that. Here's the classroom protocols. Some of that's unspoken rules. Some things such as, I particularly don't like it when people chew with their mouth closed. I'm sorry, with their mouth open. It bothers me. That's one of those unspoken rules. That's probably a terrible example. That's probably that was terrible. But it's just a pet peeve. That's a pet peeve for me. But at the end of the day, there's those things that you have to do. Otherwise, you're considered, not behaving correctly. I remember. I'll give you an example. Growing up, man, we used to do yo mama jokes all the time as a kid. I love the your mama's so fat, sat on Walmart and lowered the prices. That was my go-to. When I tell you, that was the one I used to use all the time. Still use it to this day. Right? Anytime we throwing out your mama jokes. Oh, your mama's so fat. But guess what? That was considered bullying to my teachers. We used to get in trouble for that stuff. Now, we knew your mama wasn't so ugly that, I don't know, she had to trick or treat by telephone. Like, we knew those weren't real things. That was just jokes that we used to do. However, to folks that were outside of, or maybe I could say folks that were unfamiliar with some of our cultural norms, that was considered bullying. We're teasing each other. We're talking about each other's mothers. That was an issue. However, again, it was acceptable. We weren't getting into fights afterwards. No one was getting mad. We were laughing. We literally were laughing. But not being able to do things like that, or that's just an example that comes off the top of my head, required us to get rid of those kind of things that we used to do on our own time, and that we would have fun and maybe do things in our neighborhood so that we could fit in. Okay? All right. Bottom line, regardless of a student's age, gender, or any other aspect of their identity, as a human being, the most detrimental experience for their mental and physical well-being is a sense of being unseen or unimportant. Heather, you know what I'm talking about. Playing the dozens was definitely a cultural thing for us. Did you get in trouble as a kid? Because, like I said, we used to get in trouble. So we used to have to try to do it when the teacher wasn't around. Back in the day. Take me back. Take it back. All right. Like my son would say, when dinosaurs were roaming. All right, she said no. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about that macaroni at the potluck. Okay? Don't bring it if it's boxed. Don't bring it if it's boxed. All right, here's the thing. All right. The spread. Now, your traditional potlucks. And this is just a stock photo, okay? This is the best one I could find in today. Okay, I was putting it together today. All right, so don't jump on me. I can already tell some folks. All right, man, where's he posting? What he got? That what kind of buffet that looking like? All right, don't get at me. All right, that's not what we're here for. Right? It's just to set the tone. But what does it look like? You go to a potluck, and I love potlucks, by the way. Can't cook for real. But I love. I'll bring some plates. Okay, but I love a potluck. And the thing about potlucks is always, what's the popular dish. Sometimes, especially if it's a regular potlucks, like church kind of potlucks. Those regular dishes that come out. Oh, I hope Sister such and such, Sister Williams brings in those yams. I hope that brother Deacon Davis brings in I don't know, turkey legs. I don't know, right? We look forward to certain things, and there's always somebody bringing something no one touches. I've seen. Hold up, I can't say this with a straight face. My bad, my bad. Okay, this is live. Okay, I've seen folks sneak their dishes on the table. They don't want nobody to know. It's wrapped up. Hell, it's like wrapped up. They got full all the way around it. Kind of slide it out there, and guess what happens? I mean, they know ain't nobody gonna buy it. Not ain't nobody gonna grab that on their plate. All right. Sure enough, potluck's done. This is one little scoop that's taken out probably from their husband, or they took it themselves. They're taking the whole pan home. Now, what does this guy do with macaroni? I moved to the Northwest. Went to potluck at a church. Good times. It was good times. I love the church. But I remember there was one particular day right at the church, go to potluck. Someone brought in the Kraft macaroni, the box kind. No one knew who did it. It was one of those sneak ons. It was on the sneak on the table type of situations. No one knew. I looked around. I waited. I said, who did that? It was kind of like subtle, talks. No one's really, but you can see it, people's face. I saw who did it. Really nice woman. She brought it in. And here's why I'm bringing this up. No one's going to, when it comes to cooking, sometimes when it comes to potlucks, for example, yes, you're going to get a mixture of all these different types of foods, different type of flavors. Everybody's going to bring in their own flair. And honestly, with a caveat, I'm going to even mention, what? Sometimes that's all you can bring in. Okay. Maybe that's all the means you have to bring in. Right. So I want to do touch on that. Right. Because someone might say, well, that maybe that's all she could do. Right. And she wanted to contribute. But at the end of the day, I think there's that niceness when it comes to potluck food. I can't remember a time when a dish was, people were talking about someone's food like publicly, just saying, your food is nasty or whatever, right? It's burnt. I can't remember a time, and I participated in a lot of potlucks. The potluck culture, if you will, maybe certain the ones I go to. I know that there are some folks where folks are pretty blatant, but a lot of times I've seen a lot of that niceness where folks won't necessarily, they just won't eat it. It's just, no, thank you. Sometimes I see people take the pan off the table, walk around the little room, the multi-purpose room or whatever, and you want some more? You want some? No, thank you. No, thank you. Right. But a lot of times, folks aren't just going to call you out and just tell you this. It's not appetizing. Okay. Now, why am I talking about this today? When we look at what niceness looks like from an educational realm, okay. Sometimes I forget to put this up so you can see this. When we put it up on when we talk about it from an educational standpoint, niceness. Well, the conversation needs to be, well, nice to whom? Who's really the one that's benefiting from this niceness? Now, I did a training in the Midwest. Okay, I'm not gonna say where. I did a training in the Midwest, and that's when I first learned about the niceness culture. Okay, so I'm from Houston. I'm from the South. South, there's that, they'll say I don't know if it's passive aggressive is the right term, but the term like such as bless your heart. Now, the undertone behind that phrase, bless their heart. It's typically it means basically, something's wrong with you in whatever context that's happening when someone says that. You come to the Northwest, there's a lot of microaggressions. So there's some subtle stuff that will be said, but sometimes it hits you later. It'll be 20 minutes later, they've already left and everything, and it's like, wait a sec, what did he just say to me? Get a lot of that stuff. But in the Midwest, my experience and what I've learned is you basically you want to be nice to a point where I don't know if it's you don't want to hurt their feelings, or I mean, correct me wrong. If you're in the Midwest, again, I'm trying not to pick on y'all, but it's just relevant for today's conversation. But let me know how would you explain Midwest niceness, even if you find a something in there, just pop that in the chat. I want to because I want to represent correctly. Okay, but it's kind of like I don't want to hurt their feelings. So, from an educational context, nice to whom? All right, let's dig into that. Niceness compels educators to focus on the dream. Let me bring that up. To focus on the dream, the possibility, and the effort of each individual student. Niceness deters educators from grappling with the red flags that consistently emerge in achievement, behavioral, and other data. Please pay attention to this last piece. Niceness, in other words, both enables avoidance and shields educators from doing the hard work of confronting inequity. We're going to break this down a little bit more. Got to get the book, by the way, folks. I don't have it, but it's in my cart. The Price of Nice. It's really, I've heard a lot of good reviews, and I kind of stumbled across it this week as I was doing my research for today's topic. I'm going to take a quick sip. All right, let's move on. What does niceness do? Okay. Niceness prioritizes the comfort of individuals with dominant identities. Okay, think about your setting. What do your schools look like? Those who are in the dominant culture, for example. Right? So it places it back on, well, we don't want to hurt such and such person's feelings, maybe. We don't that I tell you, I want to work with folks sometimes, and then I'll get the comments, well, my staff isn't ready yet. Ready for what? Right? Yeah, Patrick, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, for seconding. Okay, please, yeah, don't make people feel bad at the end of the day, right? That's that niceness. But who is the one that we're not trying to make feel bad? Students, or is it us? Okay, placing the comfort on the staff, and this doesn't focus on students. We go to school, we work. School is for the kids. But when it comes to niceness, if that is the culture that we have, where it's like it's all about, you know what, we want to make sure that my staff is prepared, or we got brand new staff, we got this, we got that, we're not ready. Oh, I don't know how to say this or word this without hurting people's feelings. So when we do that, we avoid situations in which we can really tackle and do the hard work. It's not easy to change generations, to change historical or systemic challenges that impact those who are not part of the dominant culture. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves sometimes in order to do this work effectively. If we're focused on niceness, We don't want to hurt someone else's feelings without saying what it is, and we're tiptoeing around and we're using coded language. What is it? The embracing culture? That's the way we're talking. We're not going to effectively address the issues that need to be undone. Bottom line. What else happens with niceness? Niceness hinders progress towards dismantling inequity. It hinders progress. How are, again, if we're so worried about feelings, how are we going to effectively make change? Oh, well, we want to address these equity issues. We got give you an example. Gifted and talented programs. Big equity issue a lot, especially when it comes to representation of our students of color. Not just the recruitment side, because we'll talk about, we don't have representation, we don't have students there, so we need to recruit them. But how do we get them to stay? Because if you're going off of, we need they need to be a part of our embracing culture. Well, why don't they join our clubs? Why don't they join? If that's the mindset that you have, that's going to be a challenge. It hinders progress. If we recognize that, we don't have, based off of the numbers or based off of, we can even talk about staff. We got a school that's 80% of color, yet our staff is nowhere near that, including our leadership. Nowhere near that. We don't have anybody of color in our leadership. But we won't address it. We'll tiptoe around it. We won't specifically name it. What happens? It hinders progress towards dismantling inequity. You cannot run strategic planning on niceness. I swear, it when it comes to having conversations about race, when it comes to having conversations about social justice, that is that piece. It always seems to be like the big struggle. If we were overhauling our curriculum and instruction, if we were overhauling financial something, we can have that conversation. We'll be blatant, up front. Here's stats, here's statistics, and all these charts, all these things will be up. But when it comes to the isms, we'll talk about the isms in just a moment. When it comes to those things, tiptoes, because of that niceness. We don't want to call anybody out. Can't call out Mr. Jones. But Mr. Jones needs to hear this. Shoot, Mr. Jones is not in this webinar right now, but he should be. He should be here. All right. Let's see. Heather says, yes, I am noticing that now. I am seeing inclusive, just mentioning LGBTQ and leaving out ethnicity. Yep. Yeah. I sent an email out a couple months ago, maybe, I don't know, it was a couple months ago. I sent a newsletter out and I addressed because I just had an episode that came out about LGBTQ, and not too long right after that, I got an email from someone that said, yeah, but they don't support BIPOC folks. And I said, but you're saying it as if LGBTQ plus and BIPOC, like I can't be a person of color and also be LGBTQ. How does that impact someone that has multiple, that's intersectional? But yeah, you do see, it just kind of depends. Like you'll see a lot of emphasis on maybe the opioid crisis. You might see more emphasis on special education, things that might include folks who are part of the dominant culture as opposed to things that are BIPOC. Okay. So race always seems to be the touchy subject, but other things seems to be totally fine to be addressed. Okay. Last one. Niceness, which leads me to my next point. Niceness disciplines those who attempt or even consider disrupting structures and ideologies of dominance. So when we say something, we get penalized. It I cannot make this up sometimes. When I hear stuff where people are like, okay, we have a diversity, equity, inclusion office or organization, or uh, we have a position at our school or at a district level. And when that person tries to get some work done, oh, why did we even hire a diversity person? We don't even need one. Or we see situations where they do have a DEI person, and unfortunately, statistically, those DEI positions are 1 to 3 years. Folks leaving. I don't know a lot of diversity and equity inclusion at the K-12 level. I don't know a lot at the K-12 level, especially if they're persons of color that have these positions, that stay in those positions for more than 3 years. I have a lot of folks that I communicate with that do this work, and they're gone. And then the sad thing about it is those districts or those schools that, that person exits, they don't replace them. They won't even open the position up again. The position initially didn't have hardly any funding. It was just that person who was responsible for all of the DEI work for the entire district. Thousands of kids, and they're responsible for everything DEI related. Just them. No onus is on the superintendent. None of those kind of things happen. And so what happens? That staff member gets burned out because at the end of the day, they can't even make folks do stuff. They can highly encourage you to be culturally responsive. They can highly encourage you to utilize universal design for learning or provide more assistance in special ed programs. But there's no hiring and firing authority, so they can just highly encourage you, but they can't make you do it. There's no backup for them. And it burns people out. I've seen folks get penalized for speaking up. I had my DI folks tell me, man, I swear I am hitting a brick wall. I'm just, no matter what I do, I mean, I expect pushback. I'm in a tough position. That's fine. However, I can't get nothing done. Nothing. I always tell them, use the kids. Kids can't get fired. All right. Robin DeAngelo says, niceness without strategic and intentional anti-racist action is not correct. Is not courageous. It's almost like trying to put a Band-Aid on a large wound or something like that. But without strategic and intentional anti-racist action is not courageous. If you didn't listen to me, at least hopefully you listen to Robin, Dr. DeAngelo. Okay. At the end of the day, I think that's really important. Okay. Let's wrap this up. And we'll leave a little time for some Q&A if you got some questions. Okay. Final thoughts. Oh, hold on. Let me take a sip of water. I got me all throat all dry and all this stuff. Hold on. Yep. Just like Patrick said, like bringing Kraft macaroni and cheese to the potluck. Absolutely. That sums it all up, right? You know what, Patrick? You said it perfectly, right? At the end of the day, let me go back because I mean that's perfect. That is perfect right there, dead on. Niceness without strategic and intentional anti-racist action is like bringing Kraft macaroni and cheese to the potluck. I love that, Pat. Appreciate that one. Right on point. All right. Final thoughts. Remember, acts of isms ain't nice. Racism, sexism, homophobism. Is that a one? Is that an ism? No, it's homophobia. Let's put all the acts of isms and oas. Phobias. Okay? That ain't nice. When someone is mistreating another, whether intentional or not, right? And I tell folks this stuff, man, because people will tell me, "Oh, well, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings." What is it? The impact versus intent versus impact. Okay. At the end of the day, a lot of stuff, especially racism, sexism, those kind of things. Man, I've been seeing some stuff when this month is Pride Month. Oh man, it's been breaking my heart. I'm gonna post something tomorrow in my newsletter. The amount of hatred I've seen because of pride. Just a rainbow is triggering people. A rainbow is triggering people these days. You kidding me? I'm gonna write about that tomorrow. But these acts aren't nice. They're not. They're not nice. So if you're telling me, well, I'm so concerned about hurting other people's feelings, but then you're not but you're not matching that same energy when that victim was hurt. We're not putting that same intensity on the perpetrator. That's the problem. Okay, because it wasn't nice to them when the victim. Next one, deflections hinder acceptance. Dr. Eakins, what do you mean by that? Oh, what does that mean? Deflections. Okay, well, what could that be? Oh, we don't have an issue here. Not our district, not our school, not my classroom. It hinders acceptance. Place the blame on someone. Oh, see those parents? Parents don't care. Kids don't care. They don't log in. They don't turn their homework. It's the kid's fault. Deflections hinder acceptance. At some point, we have to admit, you know what? We could always do better. I love to do my equity assessment because I'll get people that'll tell me, not us. And I just say, okay, well, let's just take a look. Let's do this audit real quick. Let's do this assessment. Let's just see if there's any small, medium, or long-term goals that we can create. I believe that there's always room for growth, including myself, someone who does equity work, who does trainings, does workshops, does speeches, workshops, all these things. I'm constantly learning. Like I spent all week looking into niceness because I don't know everything. I'll admit I don't know everything. I'm not going to push it off and say, oh, well, I know a lot about racial equity. Well, I know a lot about this. I'm doing really well. What happens when an incident? Hold on, let me get on this real quick. What happens when an incident happens? Right? A big company, acts of racism happens. They're in the news. School district, something happens. Swastikas in the bathroom, defacing something, or all these different things happen. Racial issues. And a statement goes out from leadership. Oh, well, we're currently training our teachers and staff on diversity and equity. They throw those words in there. Sneak those words in. Diversity and equity. Training for our teachers. For your teachers, though? This happens to the kids. What about the students? What are you doing for your kids, though? Because kids are smart enough to know not to tease other kids in front of a teacher. So you can give them all the PDs you want. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the student's experience is going to change. But we'll see that. And the other piece to this, at the end of the day, we should not be waiting for an issue to take place before we send out that statement. Our school district believes and supports all students, no matter what your gender. The typical language. No matter your race, gender, identity, age, sex, religious affiliate. The typical standard Chat GPT response. That's reactionary. Instead, we need to be proactive, right? We need to be proactive. What are some things that we should be doing right now? We know this is Pride Month. We know there's going to be some folks that are literally going to be triggered by a rainbow. Are we going to just try to hope and pray we make it through the 30 days or so? Are we going to focus on this being something that we find emphasis or something that we find important throughout the year, not just a little 30 days? A lot of schools are out midway through June. If not, they're already out. So because Pride Month happens after a lot of schools are out, is that something that we don't recognize? We don't recognize that we have students that are part of our LGBTQ plus community, for example? Or is this something that we can, again, make sure that our students are accepted, included, and supported if we're wanting to create a sense of belonging? We shouldn't be waiting for something to happen so that we can send our statement. We're giving diversity and equity inclusion trainings happening right now. We believe in all our students. The typical phrases that we hear all the time. Soon as something happens, let's get ahead of it this time. Got all summer to do some planning. How do we make sure that every student, each and every student, no matter where they're coming from, new Americans, whatever they represent, their identities and their multiple identities, how do we make sure that they have a sense of belonging in which they feel accepted, supported, and included? Those are my final thoughts for today. If you got a sense of belonging topic for next week, put it in the chat. If you got a sense of belonging topic for next week, put it in the chat. See, Jenny says, we need to model and make transparent our own reflective process to be better to our students. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, folks. I appreciate y'all for chiming in. I know I start getting a little preachy. Sometimes I get a little fired up. All right. Any questions, thoughts before we wrap up today? Questions or thoughts before we wrap up today? Feel free to pop those in the chat. Thoughts in the chat. If not, take a sip of water. See, Cheryl is out there. Hey, Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you. Patrick, you brought the bars today. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Dr. Scott is here. Appreciate you. Appreciate you so much. I really do. It means a lot for your support. Thank you so much for joining me today. Follow the YouTube channel, folks. If you're not following already, follow the YouTube channel at The Art of Advocacy. It's hiding right now. Okay, there it is. Oh, wait, no, you still can't see it. Okay, there it is. The Art of Advocacy on the YouTube channel. Share it. Share with your friends and colleagues and all those things. All right, here's the thing. Bottom line. I showed you what the formula is. Accept it, support it, include it. I think, Patrick, you brought up a great comment. It's going in the book. It's going in the book. Whatever D'Angelo say, she said, niceness without strategic and intentional anti-racist action is not courageous. To put it in the great words of Patrick Larkin, it's like bringing Kraft macaroni and cheese to the potluck. Remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. Let's continue to be a voice leading equity.